in this part and the next two, let's talk about what I call the two table operations. If you remember the mind map. So in single table, we have looked at a number of operations so far. In two table, one, we want to put things side by side, or we want to put them one above another, stacking them up like our Lego blocks. And then we want to summarize first and then join because the levels are not matching, right? So these are the cases. So all these three things we'll cover in this series now. So let's start with the simplest of use case, union. So here is the data set. So this you have seen a number of times, 10 row employee master data set. I have another one which is V2, which has 20 rows. A few changes have been made both in values as well as in column names. And then so I have an even larger data set. So our objective is to combine these two manually and then see whether we have actually an easier way, because if more and more employee masters are added, can we kind of put them all together without the need to do it manually one by one. So these are the things that we want to address through the unions in Mastro. Let's see how that can be done. So here I brought the employee master V1, as you can see, which is always our starting point, just 10 records here. So now let's see how we can bring the employee master V2, which is another thing itself. So I can drag and drop separately. So, and then let me have a quick look. It has about 20 records, which is visible here in 20 rows. This is what it is saying. The things sorting order, a number of things have been kind of messed up just to make it, different. So now we need to merge them together. So at first look, the structures are the same. So now let's understand what kind of problems that can come when we are trying to do this operation called union, right? So if you remember, I said the key premise is the structure has to match, meaning column by column name, right? So the problems that could come, so column names changed or new columns or deleted columns, right? So there are basically two ways to look at this. So if I take this whole thing and then paste it under this, will it work? In that case, we are doing a position by position matching, right? So, but most of the tools, they work on a name. So if I move the column, one of the columns around here and there, or one of the columns is deleted, it has no problem, right? So it's not doing a positional thing, which is a good thing. So let's see what Mastro is doing. So what I'm gonna do is drag one of them, take it near. So you see this nice thing. So new union, because it is telling us we are gonna stack them one above another. Very nice visual indication. So as you can see, also this symbol also tells we are putting one on top of another. So if you pay attention, the first thing it does is it adds the table name, a column called table name. For Tableau users, they should be familiar to this. So it adds this thing. So it adds the full Excel name followed by the sheet name with the dollar and all this. I think this, so Mastro team should take care to remove the dollar. I mean, this is an end user thing, right? So even Alteryx displays this dollar and this. So this is avoided for from a usability perspective. So it allows us to see this has 10 records and this has 20 records, right? And then the output is 30 rows. We can see that. And then it has also, if you can see, so if you scroll down, so we are able to see basically it is the same color because we are doing union, right? So everything is there. So what could be the problems, right? So really, so to understand the problems, let's see basically first mismatched fields. So first we have one of them having a department code and one of them having a department name, right? So where is department this one is coming from? This is not clear to us. Whether it's coming from here, it is not known, right? At least until we basically yeah, so unfortunately when I click on show only mismatched fields, even table names are taken away. So I have no way to know. So until I basically, so if I now click on, for example, department, for example, there are a lot of null departments, right? So they are all coming from this second data set, I guess. The first data set, because that one has probably department code, right? So some of the things probably they should apply color coding here also to make it easy, but yeah, otherwise there's not major complaint. So let's see this. So first we want to merge these two things, department and department code. But is that the right thing to do? So in one case, so this is converted into department code. I mean, in a real scenario, we will do a VLOOKUP and then merge them. But in this case, let me show you how to do this also. So let's merge them by drag and drop. So as we can see here, so now we are able to see, yeah, so that has gone out of the mismatched fields. Now we have employee ID and employee number, so that can also be merged together. Join date and joining date, that can also be merged together. So there are no mismatched fields, all the 11 fields are now matched, and we can basically get rid of this. Now we can just scroll around and see whether we see any null values anywhere to indicate a problem. We do not see any nulls anywhere, right? What's happening is the employee numbers, they are repeated, right? Intentionally, because I took kind of the same data set and duplicated it. So that's why it's happening, but in a real world data set, not much, right? So let's go to the next step of profile and see. Basically it's 30 rows. It's carrying forward this table name if you want to use that later on. This is something I found it to be quite useful. For example, in my real test, we created a number of hyper files because we are extracting huge data sets from the ERPs, different versions of ERPs, and then we are trying to combine them. Initially, we were writing code in the SQL layer to signify where it is coming from, but finally we did it. So Mastro also added a field which served us very nicely. So these are little details which are consistent with how Tableau is doing, which are helpful for us. So now, how do we do the next step? So as you can see here, so some of this tool, yeah. So how do we combine, for example, so this fin and finance, they are together, right? So an acronym and a full form together. So one option is I can right click, so it is not giving me that option. So I can basically look at group and replace, manual selection, right? So now this window is there, so I can put billing, these two things together, fin and finance together, and the same thing for sales, and security it's only one, stores there's only one. So done. So we have merged it together, right? So unfortunately, so it has used the code, so we probably want to use the full name. Maybe the ordering really matters. I did not pay attention too much to it. These are things we can fix. And the same thing with the F and female. So I'm gonna this time so use let's try pronunciation and see. No, it has not really found anything. So and then male, we want to just do, right? So in the future, if any of them brings either of the values, they will all be grouped together. So from that perspective, it has done a very good job, right? So great. So there is no more complexity that we can see in a union apart from whatever we have seen. So now what other things we can do? So if you actually go here to this settings, so it is having this thing called multiple files or single, right? So in both cases I brought and then given you a single table. So let's exercise the second option, right? So it is going to this Mastro tutorial videos, which is the folder that I have. So now it is asking, so what is the pattern? So right, so the matching Excel is this. Sheets, what do I want to include? For example, it is giving me this whole sheets, right? So it would be nice if I have a better view of this. So let me, so this is very nice. It's giving me all of this. What I'm gonna do is basically, so I want to include all these items which have a employee master V followed by a hyphen, right? So that gives me basically 4 or 5 of them. So I do not want these two. So how do I exclude? Yeah, I think in this case it is gonna include all of them, right? So including this V1 calculations and the table, and there is no easy way to deselect one of them, or so in this case let me say apply, and then in the next step what I'm gonna do is to basically add a clean operation. So here, and I'm gonna get rid of all these tables that we do not want. So in this, I do not want these calculation related stuff, so I want to basically exclude them. So now I don't need this anymore. So these things can be removed, so I can right click. So there is a whole, I mean, if I cannot select all of this and remove, it has to be done one by one. So these are things I think, so we don't need this union anymore because that is all done in one case here. So So remove, so and then it is automatically trying to connect to the previous step. So why is it a problem? So let's check the error processing the request, we do not know why. So department code, maybe because it's not coming as department code. Yeah, so some of these issues how department is interpreted is happening. Yeah, we might have to redo some of the steps, but yeah, otherwise I think so more or less things work. You could combine things in the whole folder itself, subsequent folder itself, if you properly set it up. The nice thing is most of the time so we get a monthly file, daily file, weekly file that is generated by a program, not like hand coded like me, without previous thought. So things would generally match, and we could go multi-layer subfolders, and when we find a problem we can trace it back to the exact file. So from that perspective I think so union feature I don't see a major issue. A nice addition would be to manually include exclude a few things to add to the flexibility, like it is given in that group and replace window. Let it do its job, but then we want to also do a little bit of manual processing beyond that. With that, so we are done with this topic of basically stacking them up. So let's in the next one let's look at joins which are to put things side by side.